Welcome to English Learning Podcast. My name is Fatima.
I am Najib.
Today we are discussing between into overcoming self-doubt. Do you ever feel like, no matter what you do, you're just not good enough? Like you're trying so hard, but it's never quite enough for anyone, not even for yourself?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like you are running a race, but the finish line keeps moving further away. But why do you ask? Is something bothering you?
I don't know. It's just this feeling that's been creeping up on me lately. At work, in my relationships. I feel like I'm constantly second-guessing myself. I keep wondering if I'm making the right decisions, if I'm doing enough, or if people even see me as capable.
Self-doubt. It's a tricky thing. It sneaks in when you least expect it, and once it's there, it messes with everything. But why now? I mean, you've always been so confident, or at least that's how you seemed.
I guess it's always been there, I just didn't acknowledge it before. But lately, it's louder. Like last week, I had this big presentation at work, and even though I prepared for weeks, I still felt like I wasn't ready. Even when everyone said I did great, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't good enough.
I get that. It's funny, though, how people can look at us and see someone who's put together, confident, even successful. But inside, it feels so different. I've been there too, you know.
Really? I wouldn't have guessed. You always seem so sure of yourself, like you know exactly what you're doing. How do you deal with it? How do you push through that doubt?
I don't always push through it, to be honest. There are times when I just let it consume me. But over the years, I've learned a few things that help. It's not about eliminating self-doubt completely, it's more about managing it, I think.
Like what? I could really use some advice right now.
Well, one thing that helps me is remembering that self-doubt is part of being human. Everyone experiences it. Even the most successful people you know have moments where they feel like imposters. It's not about never feeling doubt, it's about not letting that doubt control your actions. You have to recognize it for what it is, a feeling, not a fact.
We heard about imposter syndrome before. But it's one thing to know about it, and another thing to feel it every day. How do you stop it from getting in the way of things? I mean, it's easy to say, don't let it control you, but when you're in the middle of it, that feels impossible.
Yeah, I get that. It's hard to silence that inner critic. What's worked for me is breaking things down. Instead of seeing everything as this huge, overwhelming task, I try to focus on smaller steps. When I do that, it feels less scary. Also, I remind myself that progress isn't always about being perfect, it's about showing up and trying. Even if I fail, I am still learning. I think you put too much pressure on yourself to be perfect all the time.
Guilty as charged. I guess I do. I set these insanely high standards, and when I don't meet them, I feel like I failed. But what you said about progress, it makes sense. I just wish it were easier to put into practice.
It's not easy, trust me. But it's worth trying. I used to be the same way, always trying to live up to this impossible version of myself that I thought everyone expected. But the truth is, most people are too focused on their own stuff to scrutinize us the way we think they are.
Yeah, you're probably right. We're all so wrapped up in our own heads.
Exactly. And another thing, comparison. It's one of the biggest causes of self-doubt. When you start comparing yourself to others, especially with social media and seeing everyone's highlight reels, it's easy to feel inadequate. But the thing is, you are not seeing their struggles. You are only seeing the surface.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I'll see someone my age who's already accomplished so much, and I feel like I'm falling behind. It's hard not to compare.
It is. But the thing is, success isn't a race. Everyone's journey is different. Just because someone else is achieving something now doesn't mean you won't have your moment. And who's to say that their path is better than yours? Maybe they're struggling with things you can't even imagine. You've got to run your own race at your own pace.
I guess I never thought about it that way. I've always felt this pressure, like I should be hitting certain milestones by a certain age. But when I think about it, that's just society's expectations, right? Not mine.
Exactly. And once you start questioning those expectations, you realize how arbitrary they are. You get to define success for yourself. It doesn't have to look like anyone else's version. You have to trust your own path.
I like that. Trusting my own path. It sounds freeing, but also terrifying. What if I make the wrong choices? What if I end up regretting them later?
You can't think like that. Regret is just another form of doubt. The thing is, you are going to make mistakes. We all do. But every choice, every mistake, is part of your growth. You learn from it, adapt, and move forward. Even if something doesn't go as planned, it's not the end of the world. You can always pivot, try something new. You are not stuck.
You make it sound so easy. But you're right. I know you're right. I've been so focused on not messing up that I've forgotten to just live. To trust myself.
Exactly. You are capable of more than you give yourself credit for. You've already accomplished so much. I mean, think about everything you've done in the past few years. The things you've overcome. The challenges you've faced. You got through all of that, didn't you?
Yeah, I guess I did. It's just hard to remember those wins when you're in the middle of a new challenge. I always feel like I have to prove myself all over again.
That's a common feeling. But here's the thing, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. Not even to yourself. You are enough, just as you are. The sooner you start believing that, the less power your doubts will have.
I wish it were that simple.
It's not simple. It's a process. But the first step is acknowledging that you deserve to be kind to yourself. You are your own worst critic, Emma. Imagine if you talked to yourself the way you talk to me or your other friends. You'd never tear them down like you do yourself. So why not show yourself that same compassion?
I guess I never thought about it like that. I'd never be as harsh to anyone else as I am to myself.
Exactly. So start treating yourself like a friend. You are allowed to have doubts, but don't let them define you. Challenge them. Remind yourself of your strengths, your past successes, and how far you've come. It's okay to feel uncertain, but don't let that stop you from moving forward.
I think I needed to hear that. It's funny how you can know these things logically, but it still feels different when someone says them out loud. It feels more real.
Sometimes, we just need someone to remind us. You are not alone in this. Self-doubt is something we all go through, but it doesn't have to control you. You are stronger than that.
You always know what to say, don't you?
Well, I've had a lot of practice. But seriously, Emma, you've got this. You are going to be fine. Just take it one step at a time, and don't be afraid to lean on your friends when you need to.
Thanks, Liam. I really appreciate it. I'll try to be